T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All three engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
What is Citizens of Tech?
Citizens of Tech is astronomy.
What else is it?
Gadgets.
Something more?
Gaming.
Anything else?
Everything else.
And you know what else Citizens of Tech is? You. Become a Citizens of Tech patron by hurling money at us via citizensofTech.com. Look for the Patreon link. And now, Eric, what's on today's show?
Today we...
Sorry about that. Today we have an Amber Alert, mini brains on drugs, trashing the South Pole, how dumb devices inspire clever laziness, a boiling river, and arguments to fend off the Flat Earth Society when they knock on your door.
Oh, awesome. This is going to be a good show.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Wait, I totally wrote this with you, so I guess we knew it was going to be awesome. Anyway. So, let's start with a show from the past. There's an amber cache they found that reveals a really old flower. Now, you know what amber is, right?
Yeah, the stuff, the resin from trees, right? And it gets fossilized, and there's a mosquito, and then dinosaurs.
And then they make 3 movies, one of which was good and the others which were less good. Yes. Yeah. Right. Okay. So they found amber and amber cache down in the Dominican Republic, and there's a really old flower in here. Okay, where's the Dominican Republic? So, like the Central America area, although the Dominican Republic is an island off to the east of Cuba, I believe, right? Geography here isn't my thing. So how old is this flower?
It's not the Citizens of Geography. That's another podcast.
The flower is 15 to 45 million years old is their best guess, and they only know that based on the other critters in the amber. So they're making their best guess. We don't exactly know. But we do know the flower genus is strychnos, and that is where our modern strychnine tree comes from. So this is some kind of a poisonous plant trapped in the amber.
Strychnine?
Yes, as in that. Right.
Interesting.
So the theory then goes, since the scientist who's an expert in these sorts of plants have examined this thing, the theory is that this plant is probably poisonous as well. Again, but we don't know. Although I'm guessing, yeah, because if it wasn't poisonous, something would have probably eaten it and it wouldn't have gotten trapped in amber. But who knows? So the question is, why do we care about this super old flower? And the answer is, when you find things like this that are very rare, first of all, that's the big thing. This is very unusual thing to come by. We don't have fossilized plants lying around. It's hard enough to find dinosaur bones, let alone plants. So to get a plant specimen that has been preserved from millions of years ago, tens of millions, whatever the range is, it adds to our body of knowledge about what the Earth was like in the distant past. So this appears to go back to a time when North and South America were not yet connected by a land bridge. And so that gives us some geographical clues as to the plant and animal species that were spreading around the Earth. And we chart these things over geological time. So you can tell, well, this critter or this plant appeared to originate here on the Earth when the Earth looks like whatever it looked like based on tectonic plate movement and so on over time. And it helps us see how critters have spread around the Earth over the course of eons, which is just fascinating.
Yeah, we'll talk about Pangea and all that, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's really cool. You know what I've always wanted is...
Oh, gosh, here we go. What?
A slew of miniature brains.
What? Could you be trusted with that kind of power? What would you do with miniature brains?
Okay, so the story here is actually about drug experimentation advances that are happening because of the advent of the reliable mini brain. The information comes to us from Ars Technica. You can check it out. But so basically, these mini brains, they're not actually a new thing, but how we're developing them has advanced. So to make a mini brain, first you start with skin cells. Okay. And we've known for about 10 years how to turn those skin cells into stem cells. It's fairy dust and stuff, I'm pretty sure. But basically, the long and short is we can turn those stem cells into miniature brains. And they are about the size of a fly's eye. And they model fairly accurately the first 2 to 3 months of the human brain's development. So as a fetus develops, this models a 2 to 3 month old fetus.
Right. Okay. But again, mini as in super. You said the size of a fly's eyes. This is very tiny,
very small, and that's sort of the key. We'll talk about that in a second. But the brains actually, quote unquote, think. I mean, they're not pondering their existence or whatever, but they do.
Well, they got nothing to think about.
Yeah, right. I think, therefore, I'm a miniature brain. They communicate with electrical signals over neural networks. So, I mean, these are doing what brains do, right?
Right there, and therefore mini brain. I get it. Yeah, makes sense.
So the application here is obviously they're more useful for testing the effects of drugs and chemicals on humans than, say, a mouse brain, right? Since they're actually based on human biology. This is helpful for studies on Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, any number of neurological diseases. And like I said before, these aren't brand new, right? We've developed. Well, not we, but people have developed. Yeah, let me go to my brain factory. So they've been making these things before, but they kind of sucked. They were too big. They actually degenerated. They would rot from the inside out, which, makes them less than useful. The fact that these are so small means that they are actually far more durable. And so they're a major step forward for drug research and I would imagine for research into neurological studies. So
I read through this, and it did say that was one of the uses, and then they can manufacture these like thousands at a time, and so it's not like you get your one mini brain, now treat it carefully. You can make a whole bunch of these things to do your work with, which for science that's a great step forward.
That is really cool.
So. Another story here, the South Pole's junkyard. And I'm just started following a new blog called Science World that is from the Voice of America News, voanews.com. And they cover a lot of things in science, and the South Pole is one of the areas that I personally am fascinated by and what's going on down in Antarctica. And they started talking about what do you do with all your trash when you're down at the South Pole? Because here's the thing. We have a year-round presence as human beings at the South Pole, and we have since 1959 at least. There's been someone continuously manning that area. So now we get rid of our trash with the nearest trash can, and then we take our trash cans out to the curb, or we haul it away to the transfer station, or whatever, when we have broken stuff or just things to get rid of. But you can't do that at the South Pole. It's super expensive to get anything in and out of there. I know there's only certain times of the year they can fly due to the weather and so on. And so it's not like you can just have your trash for pickup. You got to do something with all your junk. And so what they do at the South Pole is they store it. Everything they've got that is garbage, they keep it. And they keep it in a system of berms. So the way to describe the berm in this article is it's like a long trench. It's about a few feet wide, hundreds of feet long, with walls that are just a few feet high, and they'll dedicate a berm to something specific. So wooden spools, there's a berm for that. Kitchen gear, there's a berm for that. Old lumber, there's a berm for that. Boxes, and etc. And so if you're at the South Pole and something breaks, you dig through the berms and see if you can find something that you kept to fix it up. So it makes they're making the most of everything they've got. They have to be resourceful down there because you've only got so much to work with. Throwing things away would be hard again because they can't. It's not like you can get it off continent very easy and take it somewhere for it to be disposed of. So you might as well make the most of it, and that's what they do, which I just so cool.
So basically, an old New England farmer came up with this system, right?
Yeah.
Because everything goes in the barn, and then what doesn't fit in the barn goes in the shed because I might need that someday, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And then you end up in that old barn with tables and little drawers filled with rusted screws
and a mannequin for no reason.
Now, another thing interesting about these berms is that snow is a problem. You think, oh, of course, the South Pole, it must snow a lot. No, it actually does not snow very much at the South Pole, only about 9 inches a year. But the problem is it never melts because it's so cold.
Oh,
so
right.
that means that all the stuff in the berms can get obscured by falling and blowing and drifting snow. I mean, yeah, they make the berms so that they go into the wind to try to minimize the snowdrift effect, but still, every few years, they got to dig these things out and move some of that snow so they can continue to get at the stuff when they need to get at stuff. And so in January 2016, they had a special event for this. They called it Burning Man. I see what they did there. Get it?
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, Burning Man in North America being the complete opposite of this, where everyone's mostly naked and there's a sun worship and whatever they do at Burning Man. I really have no idea.
So Burning Man, everyone bundles up and goes outside to shovel. Yeah.
You got it. Yep, complete opposite.
That's great.
Anyway, pretty cool what you guys got going on down at the South Pole. Hope I can visit someday.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good time.
Come on, let me have my fantasy.
Okay, you can have your fantasy. And I can have AA powered devices that I can power cycle using Bluetooth. There's a device out here that will retrofit your dumb AA battery powered devices with a remote on off capability.
Okay, as in not smart. So I've got some old thing that takes AA batteries.
Yeah.
Now, okay, I gotcha.
Right. It could be. I was about to say a clock, but I can't think of a good reason that you would want to turn off your clock. I got nothing. Anyway, so how does this thing work? It's called the tether cell adapter, and it's sort of a battery sleeve. So it's the size of a AA battery, but you pop a AAA battery into it, and then the tether cell actually goes into the AA battery slot in the device. So the tether cell has a Bluetooth LE radio in it that you can then control through your smartphone with an app.
I get it. Okay, and it's going to have an electrical power switch inside, so you can now, via Bluetooth, turn the thing on and off?
Bingo. You got it. And
why Bluetooth? Why shouldn't it be Wi-Fi?
I don't know. I mean,
how much range do I get out of this thing if it's Bluetooth?
They claim 50 to 60 foot range, but 20 feet is about 20 to 30 is usually what I get with my Bluetooth devices. So I somehow doubt 50 to 60.
If your house is made of farts pooted out by Judy Garland and Rainbow Dash, yeah, you'll get 50, 60 feet out of Bluetooth, but not in my world, man. I don't know.
Oh.
It's not like, I don't know, maybe I'm being too mean. It's not like Bluetooth audio where you need consistently strong, uninterfered with signal before the sound turns to sadness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, you're walking and everything's fine, then all of a sudden it goes, and it's just like, I just walked a step out of range, I swear. Can a man not go to the bathroom and listen to Spotify at the same time? Anyway.
This view into Ethan's private life brought to you by
How much does the
Tether
tether
Cell.
cell cost anyway?
You can find them 2 for $20 on Amazon, so it's a relatively cheap thing. I'm trying to think of an application that I would have for it, but obviously, if I came up with clock, I'm not one to be.
You're not the candidate for this.
Yeah,
product.
no, that's all I got.
Turning away from gadgets and back to a little bit of geology here, we have a Peruvian river that actually boils, and so I stumbled on this story. I think it started in Ars Technicon, then I clicked around and I ended up on the adventure blog in nationalgeographic.com talking about this story. There's a mythical river in Peru that supposedly it was mythical. You know, it was rumored to actually boil, and everyone's like, yes, tell us more, native people who obviously know nothing. Only it's a thing. It's actually real. And so there's a guy, his name is Andres Russo. He grew up hearing about these myths. He lived in areas of the world where these stories were told, and he was fascinated by it. And he ended up, through course of his education and so on, having the opportunity to do a study where he could make a thermal map of Peru. And yeah, sure enough, he found a boiling river. And this is the real deal. So it's in central Peruvian Amazon jungle. And for about a 4-mile stretch, this river averages 186 degrees Fahrenheit. And it does indeed boil in places. You look at some of the shots that were included, the photographs, there's bubbling water, there's rising steam. I mean, it is boiling water, and it's not a little bit of water. It's not like this little stream. That was my next 80 question. Feet wide. It's huge. 80 feet wide and 16 feet deep in places. I mean, real deal river. Now, okay, so take a step back and think about this for a second.
Yeah, the amount of water that has to get heated.
It's amazing. Has a ton of energy required to crank up that much water to this kind of a temperature. I mean, it's just if you can't grasp it, think about this. If you're like boiling water in a tea kettle, if you boil a little bit of water in the tea kettle to just enough to fill your cup, that takes however long it takes. And it's so much longer to boil all the water in a tea kettle if you like fill the tea kettle up.
Then you talk about like a pasta pot full, waiting for pasta water to boil, you know?
A watch pot never boils, right? There's a reason they say that. It's because it takes a long time to do that. And so we're talking about an enormous amount of heat that is being transferred into this water that gets back to the surface and then is in a almost boiling state. And normally this would be a volcano.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Are we talking like there's a magma pocket?
Yeah, and that is typical when you find odd geothermal events like this. There's some kind of a volcano, some kind of internal liquid rock effectively nearby, lava that's heating this up. Not in this case because the nearest volcano is 435 miles away. And so just to quote the article here to explain what's going on, this river is fault-fed, which means that the water sinks down deep, spends some time underground taking heat from the earth, and then shoots back up through faults and cracks in the earth's surface to create this anomalously large thermal river. As far as we know, there's nothing like it anywhere else in the earth. Nothing exactly like this.
That's amazing. So, yeah, basically cold water pours down into the earth, gets hot enough that the pressure ostensibly rises enough that it then shoots out and comes out as a river of hot water. That's
4 miles long, 80 feet wide, and 16 feet deep in places. Yeah.
That is astonishing.
So
Very
if this
cool.
is cool to you, if you're like super interested in this, there's a website about it, boilingriver.org. And they want to preserve this site. It has sacred meaning to the Peruvian people. And there's also more science that's going on behind there. For the Andres Russo, he's doing more research on this. And if you know of a thermal water in your area, he wants to know to continue his mapping project, whether it's in Peru or wherever you are. And there's actually a link in the boilingriver.org site so that you can send him information about what you know and contribute to his research. So just a really cool story.
Send it to us too, because that's awesome.
There you go.
So speaking of heating things up, Ethan, did you ever try to fry ants with a magnifying glass?
I may have gone after an ant or two in my day, although to be honest, I don't remember exactly, although I do remember having a magnifying glass and doing some wood burning, like take a scrap of wood and just, burn it with the magnifying glass.
Do like I did and do some wood burning on the picnic table and get in trouble.
So why did you ask me about this?
Because the Russians want to do that from space.
Burn ants?
Well, no, not ants specifically, but so they have an idea to launch a, quote, solar synchronized satellite that will deploy a 16 square meter tetrahedron shaped reflector.
And a tetrahedron is?
It's a 3D triangle. So it's like you take 4 triangles, you stick them together on their edges. That's a tetrahedron.
Got it.
So the reflector will gather the sun's rays and then beam them back to the ground. And the end result would be seen as the brightest star in the sky. So why would we want to do this? It may not sound like there's many practical applications, but there's actually a couple of ideas. If you think about it, one possible application for it includes orbital lighting. So you shine a light from the sun, from space, onto a dark area.
Okay. Right.
So you may have a disaster area, a disaster zone, a huge construction project or harvesting, right, where putting artificial light in place is, too expensive or logistically difficult, what have you.
Or just to take a note from science fiction, you could light a city with it.
Yeah, right.
Huh.
Shine it on the city. And now, places very far north where, there are long periods of darkness during seasonal.
I mean, is this a government thing, though, that they're working on? Or what is this?
It's actually there's a Kickstarter, the Russian Kickstarter Boom Starter. It's a startup, basically.
So it's crowdfunded?
Yeah, it's a crowdfunded project.
Huh.
So one of the things that I was thinking about was a possible application for 24/7 solar power. Because if you're harvesting solar power during the day from the sun, and then at night you can use this thing to shine light down on a solar panel at night and, restrict it to an area, you could be generating electricity with solar power 24 hours a day, hypothetically.
And then it's an issue of, is it economically feasible? Because you've got to have a launch vehicle to get the reflector up in space. There's going to be alignment issues and control and that kind of stuff. But it seems plausible, right?
Yeah. Maybe not economically viable at this point, but yeah, it's a plausible thing. But, ultimately, I just think you could fry a lot of ants with it. That's what I'm saying.
Of course. Oh, well, when the reflecting tetrahedron is up there in space, it can confirm for us once again that the Earth is a sphere. It would have a perfect view of things. And in fact, Eric, you found this article in Popular Science, 10 ways that you can prove the Earth is round. And the way we thought we would deliver these 10 ways you can prove the Earth is round is with a goofball skit that I came up with. So here we go. Knock on the door. Hi, Mr. Sutphin. I'm Ethan. I'm from the Flat Earth Society, and do you have a few minutes to consider the flatness of our world? It is evident all around us.
Well, have you considered that during a lunar eclipse, the shadow that is cast is a round one? Aristotle knew that. Or have you considered the fact that if a ship on the horizon approaches you, that it appears to rise out of the sea?
I don't think that proves very much, because clearly the Earth is...
Okay, so you're a little slow. Well, let's consider some more facts. Why do you suppose that we see different constellations in the night sky depending on where you are on the planet? That sort of thing doesn't happen unless the Earth is round. Again, Aristotle thought this one through. You should really read some of his stuff.
Yeah, you don't have to get all huffy, Mr.
I'm not huffy, my flat-brained friend. I'm a citizen of tech. Now, listen to these additional proofs of a spherical Earth. Consider that sticks in two different locations do not produce the same shadow. Instead, they produce different shadows since the angle of the sun varies against the stick with the curvature of the Earth. This phenomenon is so consistent that Eratosthenes was able to calculate the circumference of the Earth, and that was over 2,200 years ago. And besides that, you know how when you climb a mountain you can see a longer distance? That doesn't happen if the Earth is flat. It only works if it's curved. Oh, and how about plane travel? Have you ever traveled in a jet crossing the Atlantic? You can actually see the curved horizon. And let's not forget that a plane can fly in a straight line around the Earth.
All of that is just fine. However, I am sure your perception is wrong, as there is no doubt of the flatness of this ground upon which I am standing.
Oh, so my perception of the Earth is suspect. Fine. Let's perceive the other planets then. Ever notice how every planet or moon we've ever sent an exploration vehicle past or seen in a telescope is spherical? Any particular reason that the Earth should be any different? Logically, our planet should be the same rough shape as every other planet we observe. And what about time zones? We know that it's a different time of day in different parts of the planet. That couldn't happen if the Earth was flat.
No, this is all very silly. I'm sure there's an explanation, so... Answer me this, science man. If the Earth is a sphere, why don't people on the other side fall off?
Because gravity pulls objects toward the center of a mass. That's why gravity feels the same for everyone on planet Earth. If the Earth were flat and therefore a plane, gravity would pull you towards the middle of the plane. You'd be pulled sideways more than down the closer you got to the edge.
Well, it is clear to me that you are a heretical non-believer. Unworthy of further consideration by the Flat Earth Society, you are unwilling to acknowledge what you plainly see around you.
What I see around me? I've seen many images from space of our fair planet Earth. In every single photo, the Earth is a sphere. Every one. I do indeed acknowledge what I plainly see, and now I see you leaving in your car, heading down the road paved across this spherical Earth to bother me no more.
Okay, that was fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
Thank you, Popular Science.
Just wanted to do a piece on that because of the recent furor over the flat Earth conspiracies that have been going around. So, on to content I like. And Ethan, you found something that, upon further review, became content that I also like.
So I found a site, Storm the Castle. So stormthecastle.com, and then there's a companion YouTube site, youtube.com/user/epicfantasy. And what this site is, it is an insane collection of nerdery and how-tos. I mean, just if you're that stereotypical nerd kind of person, this is your site. Because topics include making video games, model rocketry, astronomy, how to make your own mead, terrariums, fantasy swords, origami, beekeeping, stamp collecting. And I just cherry-picked a certain topics. There's so much more on this site. Now, again, stormthecastle.com. It does look a little Web 1.0, and there's a bunch of ads in there and stuff. But if you can get past that and get past the formatting, there is just a ton of information. And again, companion YouTube channel under the name Epic Fantasy, over 600 videos, and he's got titles. I pulled these off the front page. Teeny Tiny Popsicle Stick Catapult, How to Forge a Karambit Fighting Knife, Make a Medieval Wax Seal. I mean, this guy is out of control with all the cool, weird, funky stuff that he's doing.
I love every word that just came out of your mouth.
I know, right? So I'm hoping to ping this guy and actually get him on Citizens of Tech. Maybe we could chat with him and see if he's doing just cool projects he's working on or something. I think it would be a fun interview to do.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Eric, I learned something today.
What did you learn?
Today, I learned that some fish have filters on their eyes that let them see fluorescence naturally. Their visual world is sort of like the one we see under a black light or when shining blue light and looking through yellow lenses like scientists do when hunting for fluorescent creatures underwater. And this came from a NOVA that was recently on PBS here in the U.S. called Creatures of Light. Totally cool show. I learned a ton. Absolutely fascinating.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. And you know what else is amazing? We're at the end of our show. And so, folks, you have just finished listening to Citizens of Tech. Now, run your fingers through your hair and smile and think confidently about how attractive you are to the opposite sex. Because, after all, statistics prove that our fair citizenry has +3 virility, +4 social competence, +5 conversational potency, and +9 intellect. Revel in the greatness that is you. And you can add +10 general awesomeness to yourself by leaving a good review for Citizens of Tech on iTunes. And hey, we'll see you next week.